Hey guys, Sykodelic here. Just jumping on to give a little note about the AMA. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of an error with the audio at the beginning of this AMA. So just wanted to give you guys that information so you understood why the AMA starts a little bit abruptly. But we've uploaded it anyway. Here it is. Everything is there other than the introduction. We do also have another AMA coming up with DISC on the 9th of October, where we'll be talking about their white paper. So make sure to tune in for that one as well. But yeah, apologies for the issue with the audio quality at the beginning, but I've been here long enough. I'll let you now get into the AMA. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers. Be able to understand exactly what it is that you guys are sort of bringing forward.
Absolutely, you're 100% correct that there is a confusion out there. Um, Collectively, what I hear a lot of times is people that are not um, immersed or engaged in this field, they get confused by consolidating everything into one word, crypto, and they think crypto is this all-encompassing um, digital currency, and the market's bad, and that's what this must connect to, and there's that learning curve that we have to actually take the time to look at their concerns and kind of rebuild off of what they know in terms of a foundation, because mass adoption is going to be eventual, but we have to give that education to really let them understand the capabilities of what this technology is, and it's not just associated in a monetary fashion, but it's connected to a utility that really changes the dynamics of benefits to the data owner and to the user.
Yeah, and I guess that really is the next phase, isn't it? It's the moving from just buying and selling different tokens to incorporating and understanding utility and bringing this into the real world. And as I'm sure you're very familiar with, Mike, this hasn't been possible really until the hypergraph, enabling traditional businesses to be able to adopt decentralization and quote unquote blockchain technology because of the pay per transactional economy has really sort of barricaded out any business that has lots of different um, data transactions throughout the day, because it's would just be way too expensive and just unusable.
You hit it right on the head, because that's sustainability. The model that we always hear everybody in the private sector always talk about, well, our business model is sustainability. Okay, that's great. You know, Using a mass adoption model, there's no way you can use these types of gas fees to maintain sustainability. And that's where the hypergraph is a game changer, because you're not just being able to be sustainable through the actual expenditures related to gas fees and so forth, but you're also able to take in a dynamic amount of data that's, both scalable and at the same time not creating a negative redundancy or negative latency against your data system or your network. And so sustainability really has this word that's kind of all encompassing, not just on the economic side, but also on, can you sustain the data you're going to receive? Will the low latency still be maintained? Do you have cross-chain liquidity, or cross-chain capability and immutability? And can you accept an agnostic type of data? So the hypergraph really hits all those solutions and is a game changer in the sense that mass adoption can now actually happen.
Yeah, and I think it's exciting being on the the border of that just beginning. And I think over the next couple of years, I mean, of course, we're already seeing what that makes possible with businesses like yourself that are building on the hypergraph, with the, the difference in the utility that's incorporated within the tokens and the real world use and disruptive qualities of industries that is sown within these projects is, very, very easy to see the difference between the projects that are looking to build on the hypergraph and say the projects that are building on Ethereum. So, and yeah, I mean, obviously very excited to hear, about yourself and what you guys are up to a little bit more. So I think we'll sort of lead in there, Mike, and I think it'd be good just to get a quick sort of breakdown, just a bit about yourself and your journey and how you've ended up where you are today in Disc, and how it all came about.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, first off, thanks for having me, Dan. It's awesome. I appreciate it. And, our disc members appreciate it. So, thanks for that up front. But where did disc come from? It came from an idea that started with just a little bit of excitement first. It was me looking at the military sector of drones and going, wow, I can't wait for that to be commercialized. And thinking it would be a long time in the future, but hoping that it wouldn't be. And all of a sudden, I seen this announcement that Amazon was showing a commercial of a delivery of a drone, and I looked at that and I said, "Wow, this is so great. This is happening." Um, but then I started realizing that the commercial didn't really show where the drone came from and where it was going after delivery. So I started going, well, why didn't they show the whole process? This is a big announcement, like maybe this is just the beginning. But I started doing some homework and I started realizing there was no infrastructure. There was literally no infrastructure where that drone came from or where it's going to land and hang out at afterwards. So I realized that there was a gap, and that gap needed to be filled because if this was going to be a solution, I didn't wanna make a drone that was the best drone. I didn't wanna make, a widget that was the best widget. What I wanted to do is be able to make an infrastructure system that would allow mass adoption through an open platform where multiple manufacturers can benefit from it. But in order to do that, everything needed to be a node. And so by creating that node system, there had to be some kinda economics that made sense with it. And how do you take a current infrastructure and change it? You can't rebuild the world. So what do you do? So that's where I started figuring out, okay, what current existing infrastructure is out there that is specific to solving these pain points of an autonomous mobility system that can allow for delivery. And I started realizing that, well, I have a general contracting background. I've been, doing that for a long time. And the buildings that we've done roofing for and everything, we started seeing I started realizing, wait a minute, these are worthless real estate rooftops that are a liability to the owner and landlords and management. What if we could turn them around and repurpose them and put them into an opportunity that actually creates a drone airport?
Mhm.
So that's where my journey really began. And I started actually starting to draw up a lot of patent op, patent con ops, like concept of operations. And once I actually figured out how I wanted the system to work, I went back to school and I went for a double degree in aviation transportation management and in unmanned systems for the robotics for ground, air, and marine robotics. And so I needed to have that information because I needed to understand national airspace and how I can have the drone delivery process and the infrastructure of physical hardware and physical structures. How do we combine that and then also combine it with data, because data was the new gold, you know, and how do you combine all these things together where you have a purpose that is a benefit for all? And that's where we came up with the three things, which is safety, security, and sustainability. And now that those are three simple words, but they were very difficult to achieve because in aviation we have to make sure that everything's safety first, and then security to protect it. And then how do you get that sustainability? That's broken down into two sectors, environmental and economic. So if you're just doing drone delivery and you currently look at the existing model of physical delivery of people and cargo through third-party services, you start to realize that it's a model that it has a lot of pain points. It's fractionalized. There's a lot of competition. There's a shortage of human capital. There's a lot of these third-party companies taking the branding of all these mom and pop shops, retail chain stores, restaurants, and they're keeping that life cycle ownership of that customer and holding ransom the restaurants and the retailers because now they don't have control of their own customers. And so what you're seeing is I started to see what is pretty much the possible collapse of what the restaurant industry, as an example, if they keep this up, will wind up in, because it'll show the revenue that it's almost not even sustainable for inflation for using that restaurant example. It's not even sustainable for inflation, but yet you see these third party delivery services, their revenues are growing exponentially. And I say this in my business plan that we're actually biting the hand that feeds us, literally, because those restaurants are not growing at a proper healthy rate, but the third party delivery services are, because they're capturing both the brand of the restaurant and the customer's life cycle, and in turn creating an exponential income revenue, but creating no healthy growth opportunity for the restaurant itself. So that was one type of business model, and we realized there's a $53 billion over a 10-year span from 2017 to 2027 estimation. There's a $53 billion lost revenue opportunity for the owners of the restaurants. Now, if we could take those smart rooftop and ground airports and we put it right over the restaurant or the retailer's building on worthless real estate that now can be monetized and used as a smart drone airport system, we now have the capability to create what we call a true last mile logistics. And we give the power back to the restaurants and the retailers to have the life cycle of their customer, the brand, and their profit margins. But in turn, that now carries over to the actual customer. The customer now,
Yeah.
when we go into the autonomy side of this, we solve the pain point of not enough human capital to sustain the actual delivery demand. But we're also solving another problem, because now the family that had to put money aside for a tip can use that money to buy dessert for their kids that they didn't have before. And now the actual restaurant can hire more people to do more prepping because their sales tickets went up. And at the same time, you can repurpose that rooftop to bring in public use. You can put a defibrillator drone up there. You can put a 911 drone up there. You can put a disaster relief on demand drone up there.
Yeah.
You can do
There's
different various, even an Amber Alert drone. You can put the news on demand for the local news drone up there. So you could bifurcate this roof into different use cases on the same eco roof and monetize a worthless existing infrastructure that's pre-existing. So we got into the repurposing of, and we created these auxiliaries that connect to it. So the smart delivery doorbell miner, that's the first data miner that will allow for weather data to be available at the doorstep of the customer. By doing that, we have the first weather information in aviation that will allow for situational awareness for actual autonomy, which is another pain point that we solved. So those are just some examples.
Yeah, I think that's how you've covered a lot of really interesting information there, Mike. So I appreciate such a broad description about what it is that you guys are doing. And I think it's very clear to see that the use case is one, needed, and two, vast. So essentially what you're talking about here is a autonomous fleet of drones that will be able to carry out a myriad of different objectives and tasks to support the economic sustainability of many different areas of life.
That's correct. And
Yeah.
with by connecting those different variables, like by making a mobile app, we can actually ask the person, are you wanting to hail this autonomous vehicle for, and when we say autonomous drone, for clarity, we're really talking about anything autonomous, like an autonomous drone, ground robot, vehicle. Those are all still drones. So when we combine that, if a vendor in the future says, well, I offer all three of those, I have a ground robot, I have an autonomous car, and I have a drone. But the weather that day might not be conducive for flight for the drone, but it would be for the ground robot and the vehicle. To us, those are just nodes. But to the customer, for the first time ever, they get a multimodal selection of their convenience of delivery for transportation.
Yeah, it's a very, very exciting, exciting project, and I think it's very timely in terms of where we are at in the life cycle of business and technology. That I think you have got the right idea with the right timing, and also the right technology with the hypergraph. So, speak to us a little bit about um, what what it is exactly that the hypergraph enables you to be able to do within your project, and how you are going to utilize its power to create a service and a technology within your project that is leaps and bounds ahead of anything that's currently available right now.
That's a good question. So the hypergraph to us is that missing element in terms of a great business model that has everything but what exists is not a business model. And even though I had at the time this model that I said, hey, I think this is a solution, it was not, it was missing an element. And that element didn't make it a business model. And that what was that element? It's hypergraph.
Yeah.
We, there's no way we can onboard all these nodes. And again, to us, a node could be a landing pad, a charging station, a smart delivery doorbell, the landing pad data miners we're going to do. It could be any of these things, a weather sensor. To onboard all these different sensors that are nodes, there's something that has to be built that can handle both legacy as well as new and future data solutions. It has to be agnostic in the data, but it also has to be interoperable on the hardware. And as it grows, it cannot create a negative effect of gas feeds. It has to be able to cross-pollinate between networks. It needs to be able to scale and actually reverse it where, it gets faster, not slower in terms of latency. None of this is possible without that element of the hypergraph. And so creating a state channel, on the hypergraph allows us to make that one last element have the model truly sustainable. And that's
Yeah,
what's so important.
yeah, and I
So
think it's the with what you're doing, when you're talking about, I think when you're talking about anything autonomous, it's like the case with Tesla and their, autonomously driving cars. The amount of data that has to be processed, they're all linked up to a central computer when they're communicating thousands of bits of data every second where they're driving around and picking up new information for safety and communicating with all the other vehicles in terms of traffic data and potential issues. And the amount of data is is insane. And I imagine this is going to be a very similar situation for yourself. So you have to have the scalability, you have to have the economic sustainability in terms of transactions, but also you need the security that the hypergraph can provide you, because you know cyber issues and attacks are only becoming more frequent. And if you have you have a huge fleet of autonomous drones carrying people, then the safety element that you have to be able to ensure within that, the data that's being transacted from drone to drone and to the base or whatever, you need to be able to audit that, see that in real time, and understand and have security in the fact that you're validating that data in the most decentralized and secure fashion. And that's something else that the hypergraph really brings with its proof of reputable observation. I mean, I think that's a massive part of it, isn't it? The security and auditability of your data.
you couldn't have said it better, Dan, because honestly, that is you can have, again, this is another element, right? So you can now have everything that we talked about, but now you have vulnerabilities, and it's in the quantum. If you have a ton of these smart delivery doorbells, vehicles, drones, landing pads, if you have these IoT edge solutions, every one of those are an exposure. And if you're going to create a utility solution, you have to be able to have security decentralized at the edge, and it has to be able to be blockchain validated and immutable data that can actually be traced to the point that if it doesn't validate the data through consensus of a a quorum between nodes, then what you have is a vaulted data that needs to be forensically examined in the future, but cannot populate within the blockchain network because its proof of reputation has not been validated. And so until that consensus occurs, then there is no validation, and no validation means we need to quarantine.
Mm.
And so we have a system that also creates the immutability side of it on the cyber side, but also now, because of that, can actually have a solution to reward the data creator. Because now the data creator and provider, it shows where that genesis of data derived from. And since it does show where that data derived from, you can now reward who actually created it by using that same system. And so
Yeah.
that all connects.
Yeah, I love the proof of reputable observation is such a game changer in terms of the consensus models. And for anybody who's listening who doesn't know what that is, the proof of reputable observation is the consensus model for Constellation's hypergraph network. So essentially, how that works is, instead of proof of work or proof of stake, Um, proof of reputable observation is based on a node's reputation score, which is scored by other nodes. So it doesn't matter, like with proof of work, if you have a massive mining warehouse and loads of power, you will have an advantage over others in terms of validating Bitcoin transactions and proof of stake. If you stake a load of ETH, then you've got a higher chance of validating transactions. And there's arguably an element of centralization in there. But with proof of reputable observation, which is a completely novel consensus model, it is based off of the reputation of what your node is doing. So if you are trying to validate bogus transactions, your reputation score will be damaged, and therefore you won't get transactions to validate, and there's no point in you having a node. So it forces decentralization and trustless in terms of validating transactions. And I think we're going to see it rise as the form of consensus moving forward, and I believe it's going to be copycatted and mimicked as we move forward and people see the power of it. So, and yeah, like it is the consensus model needed for what it is that you're trying to do, Mike, because your data is going to be extremely sensitive, and you're going to need 100% confidence that you are secure in your processes and what it is that you're doing.
Absolutely. And that cluster of data validation through the consensus of these nodes, it that just the fact that you're building a reputation of what you're doing as a node. Like the node is its own entity at this point, right? And it's the other nodes are looking at it like, hey, that's not Billy. Billy don't act like that, you know. So
Yeah,
I know that guy. His character's really good, you know.
yeah, yeah,
So so that as funny as that sounds, that's really what it is, right?
yeah,
And that's what we want. That's what we need. That's what we have to have. And we've taken that even a next level up with like bringing in BioFi as a provider partner. So
yeah,
Constellation is one end of the partner, BioFi is another. We are using their biometrics that are going to be in our Nexus digital wallet that we're creating, and in our actual mobile application that's a full stack app to do the hailing of cargo and delivery. So this way that adds another layer of security as well on the user side and on the vendor side. So there's a third component to that, which is the operator side. So we need to make sure that we're not just protecting the data and the node, but we're also protecting the actual endpoints of entry. And that's where the BioFi biometrics is really
yeah,
important for us as well.
yeah. No, that's great to hear. I think what they're doing, their technology they're bringing forward, it just adds that even more layers of security that's going to be required for these kind of projects. And like, I guess, after hearing you speak for the last sort of 30 minutes, what it is that you guys are really doing is you're bringing forward a novel technology, a utilizing also a novel technology in the hypergraph, offering a far superior service in so many different ways. But ultimately, you're realigning the value exchange from the business to business and business to consumer with the product that you're bringing forward. And I think we're really going to see a lot of that happening because, as you described very well, uh, sort of 10 minutes ago when you were talking about third-party delivery services, the value exchange has become so out of line that it's becoming detrimental to the restaurants because these delivery companies are becoming so large that they have to be involved. And if they're not involved, then they're missing out on opportunities for customers. But by being involved, they're getting fleeced on commission charges through delivery services, and it's actually destroying restaurants as a whole. And that's just one vertical, isn't it, of what it is that you're going to be tackling. Restaurant and that kind of delivery is but one thing, but the value exchange being leveled is going to be huge for everybody involved. And I think that's one thing that I take from what you've said. And, I think for your product to be adopted by as many people as possible, providing a fair value exchange to everybody who uses it is the best way to go about that.
Yeah, and you're right on the money on that because what winds up happening here is a self-imploding um, inevitability. As a restaurant, this is going to self-implode. I mean, how can you sustain yourself when all of the marketing, promotion, life cycle of the customer and branding is in the power of a third-party company? And using that as that one vertical, yes, there's other verticals like, hailing on demand. If, you wind up in a hailstorm and you use our app to hail a drone to memorialize the events of what happened around your house. Now you can use that for an insurance claim. Or on the other side of the thing, so even the playing field, somebody else can, an insurance company can say, look, we're going to increase the premiums, because we have $1 billion in losses from last year's hail and wind perils that were claimed on at this geolocation. But now with this new technology, we can turn around and say, hey, you know, why don't you find out exactly which block that hail ended at? And you don't have to make a demographic swath on the weather map saying it's this demographic and this diameter. We think where the hit was at. And so we estimate the damage to be 1 billion. And we're not sure if those claims are really going to be legitimate or not, but we're going to have to spend a lot of money to figure that out. Well, at their fingertips now, if you had a weather data exchange system under our AMX, which is Autonomous Mobility Exchange that we're creating, we now can sit there and say, what data do you need to figure out exactly what your true loss is? And now they could turn around and say, well, man, we just saved $40 million just by taking away 5 blocks that we thought might be in that zone. So it works on both sides of the fence. The customer gets a legitimate claim instead of turned down when they have proof, and the insurance doesn't pay out on a bogus claim when they have proof. That's just one example.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, you described yourself, the value exchange there for everybody involved. And I guess, talking about what it is that you're doing, eventually, we're talking about autonomous drone taxis, I imagine. That surely that's a that's something in the future, maybe not so far away, being able to provide transportation via these drones. And if you can secure that 100% through the hypergraph and validate your security, that's a natural progression in my mind. So I don't know if you're looking that far ahead, but I mean that would be super cool.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's great that you said that because we actually are, and we've been in many meetings, with governing bodies that have these conversations all the time, and there is a movement worldwide to bring in these flying taxis, and they're estimating by 2025, 2026, they will be full-fledged autonomy opportunities, even if there's a combination of a human factor where there might be some manual operation, but predominantly automation as its first milestone. But it is coming, it is here, and it's already, and so yes, this whole model, Dan, is to actually create this open platform that accepts any kind of hardware, and that was one of the reasons why we didn't want to be a focused widget company when it comes to, making the best drone or making the best vertical takeoff and landing vehicle or flying taxi or landing pad. To mass adopt, and you brought that up, you really need to keep an open platform that allows for others to participate.
Yeah, for sure. And like I think for yourself, utilizing the hypergraph network at its infancy, this stage right now, solidifying your project and moving forward, you're going to have the first mover advantage in an industry that is going to very quickly increase. And all we have to do is look back at technology over the last 10 years to see how fast things move. And, I completely believe you. 2025 is, I can see how this is happening. Delivery as a whole is, has accelerated in an insane amount over the last 6 years. It's become such a staple of society. And this is going to be a level up of that. And I think for yourself, if you get your business model correct and the service that you provide works, then it's something that could become mass adopted very quickly, because it's not really too much of a step ahead from what's happening now. Like right now, if you want to order something, you order online, whether that's delivered by a person or by a drone, that doesn't make any difference to people's perception of utilizing the delivery of a product, you know? So as far as the consumer goes, they're going to get a more efficient service that has a more fair value exchange for everybody involved. And that's the only real change of perception they're going to have, is how things are delivered. So it's not a big ask for people to adopt this kind of technology on the consumer side of things. So I think that's a big positive.
It is, and that's another thing as well, is you touched on the fact that there isn't the type of modal transportation that you're using, whether it's a physical driver or a drone. The adoption of delivery has become mass adopted already, but the evolution of changing it to autonomy is is a variable that's going to happen inevitably. So creating the autonomous infrastructure needed to address all those matters. And for example, creating the smart rooftop and ground drone airport, it has already considered the fact that we will have, it's called a smart rooftop and ground drone airport when we filed that patent, because the ground side of things will be autonomous cars and robots, ground robots, but the roof can be repurposed to be able to take vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, the air taxis, the drones, the landing pads, the charging stations, and all sitting behind a parapet wall that is away from the public and away from the eyesore, but also security wise protecting itself. And just hail on demand, where it just comes down, it's loaded, and it takes off. So creating that eco, we're the nexus between the physical and the digital, because we can now create digital twins that will actually create a duplicate and be able to do predictive analytics to determine things using that same data.
Yeah, and that's going to be a huge leap forward. And I'm, for one, excited to see how this kind of technology is going to play out. Like you say, it's been teased and people have been thinking about it for a while. But obviously, after speaking to yourself here for just over half an hour, it's great to get the insight as to exactly how this is possible. And it's really forming an idea and a picture in my mind as to exactly how large and beneficial this could be as a whole for so many different people. So I think next, what we'll do, Mike, 'cause I know you've only got an hour I know you've only got an hour of your valuable time today. So I think if you just want to quickly give us a little bit of information about that doorbell miner, and then we'll jump into some of the announcements you wanna let the community know about today.
Sure, absolutely. So the smart delivery doorbell miner is the first doorbell that has a multi-purpose faceted solution as an auxiliary for the drone delivery industry. In in aviation, a lot of the actual meteorology information is predominantly controlled by airports, and they have these very mundane, outdated, and old hardwares that have done a great job over the years, but there are so many more solutions that are micro in size in comparison for weather data information. And right now, drones will be flying from surface to 400 feet. So where's that data coming from if you're using satellites and that weather data information degrades after 3,000 feet? And if the airports on ground level are predominantly holding that information, what about the in-betweens? So there is weather data available, underground data available that you can get that are relied on, but it's not, in my opinion, going to be the true solution of data for weather, because weather changes in so many areas and levels of feet. So there's this data gap between the airports and then surface to 400 feet, which is where all the drones are going to be operating. So while repurposing these rooftops and the ground with landing pads and doorbells, you're able to put the weather sensors in there and now solve another pain point in the aviation industry and in the transportation industry at large for automation and autonomy, because now we will be able to have that weather information at your doorstep. And so the smart delivery doorbell was one of those auxiliaries that said, look, we need true situational awareness. Let's take an existing infrastructure, which is the doorbell. Everybody needs it, just like a rooftop. And let's modify it so now it can have the type of weather sensors necessary for its use case. And let's go ahead and use the screen to offer more features and benefits and connect this to the hypergraph. So there's crypto rewards and data mining solutions. Now that screen, somebody can turn around and say, "Hey, I'd like to let my cleaning service in." Well, that camera will then, it'll just like a ring, it'll turn on and activate, and somebody will say, "Hey, can I help you?" And I'm the cleaning service. I'd like to get into your house. Sure, here's the code. And so they get in, or they're a contractor and they need to get in. But there's so many more solutions to that as we develop those APIs for, we'll have different models that come out. But if you can just see how that would connect to the blockchain, the state channels, the data validation, the crypto rewards, you can now sit there and say, and let's use that insurance as an example. The insurance company turns around and says, well, I don't think you have that claim on that hail. It didn't hail there in the last 2 years, and we don't see it on the weather swath that you got hit. Well, you're looking at this going, wait a minute, I know I got hit because I'm damaged everywhere. And my doorbell just is a solution right now because it just recorded that hail. And I'm going to show them that recording. So, whether it's, object recognition, or it's terrain recognition or color recognition. You can create these solutions based on its use case for that delivery doorbell, and also contain that security feature as well to let somebody in or whatnot. But you can also sit there and say, okay, well, what is this connected to? It's connected to a um, a ringer, a chime. So that interior chime can actually have different ringtones for different shipping carriers. So now if I was a shipping carrier and I was coming up and I'm UPS, for example, and I want to deliver a product, I can deliver the product and then use the camera to do a push notification that I delivered it. But in turn, we could be marketing to UPS and saying, you have a captured audience right now, and a lot of people don't know that you just delivered that product. It just shows that the product's sitting there. But what if on that screen it left a looping ad of UPS, that UPS delivered that product? So all of a sudden now we're creating sustainability through taking a product, providing crypto rewards for that data, but also creating a second revenue stream that allows for the actual shipping industry to benefit. At the same time, the security is involved in that as well. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
really cool features there.
Yeah, I think you've just dropped so much information there, and my mind is buzzing with the potentials and sort of seeing how what we're really looking at here with what the hypergraph has made possible is just so many different data points throughout the world that are going to be taking in and validating data and utilizing that in a trustless fashion that provides 100% immutable data to be able to benefit so many different areas of society and life as a whole, and at the same time provide people with a passive income source to facilitate that. So I think that's absolutely genius what you've come up with there, Mike. So congrats to you and the team. I think that's a really great piece of of technology that is going to provide a lot of value to a lot of people. So, and I'd
Well,
love to talk to you.
we appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I'm very impressed. But this won't be our only conversation, and we will actually be talking again, and we'll go into that a little bit more detail just before you leave us. Because obviously you're going to be releasing your white paper soon, is that right?
That's correct. We'll be releasing a couple different things. If you want, we can go through that real quick.
Yeah, so just give us a breakdown of this exciting next sort of month, 6 weeks that's coming up for you here.
Absolutely. So one of the first things is if you are part of the Disc community, we have a Disc Father's Day NFT gift that we were giving free to the current members. It's an NFT that was for Father's Day for an Air Force veteran, my father, and he hand drafted a um, a sketch of a drone, and we took that concept and turned it into a 3D animated MP4 NFT that we're going to be dropping on October 7th for the current members as a thank you. Um, but we have so many other announcements, so that's on the 7th, and then the white paper we're going to be releasing on October 8th, which is a Sunday, and we're going to be also be releasing on October 8th the whitelist for accredited investors to get into the seed, private one, and private two round. And then the crowdfunding offering that's going to be for non-accredited investors as well. It's obviously accredited, but really we want to make sure that the non-accredited investors have an opportunity. So we've partnered with one of our providers, which is Chainraise, and we're going to announce that actual offering date on the 15th. So that's an actual announcement of when we're going to execute that, but that'll be on October 15th. And then the other thing we're doing right now is we've been working on Discs racing drone NFTs, and the NFTs are done, and we're getting into the actual gaming programming stage. And we've partnered up with Finavant as one of our providers to actually take these racing drone NFTs and integrate them into the Ethos metaverse. Um, my my partner Jamie, she's on here right now. She's working hard on making sure we get that deadline. But what that really does for us is it allows us to now work into their Ethos metaverse, and we're going to be creating with them our own drone planet. So that will allow for us to combine our racing drones with their dojis, and we can actually have some races going on between them. So what we're going to be doing is for the existing smart delivery drone data miner NFT owners, they're gonna receive a free racing drone NFT for supporting us that will be able to be used in the Ethos metaverse. And they're also going to get a $250 gift card to be used towards any future Disc NFT products. We are saying this because we really will support and we value so much our community members. And anytime we get a chance to show our gratefulness of that, we're going to try to reward them with something. And this is how we're rewarding the current and existing smart delivery doorbell miner NFT owners. And then for the people that are listening right now, for a limited time, we're also going to be offering a free racing drone NFT with the purchase of a smart delivery doorbell data miner NFT. And by the way, that NFT can convert to the hardware once the hardware is done. But we're also going to give $250 price reduction on that doorbell miner NFT, in addition to giving you that free racing drone. And that's only going to be good for 3 days from this AMA. Um, you'll get a code if you email us through, you got to DM me, and through that DM, we'll need your information for your email, phone, and contact, and we'll send you guys a code that you can use to redeem those NFTs. And that is going to be a limited offer time. Uh, until, until we also do the public announcement, which is tomorrow on this. For the public announcement, there's not going to be the $250 price reduction, but they will have 7 days to get the free racing drone NFTs. So for listening to this, your benefit for the listeners, and thank you very much for listening, is the $250 price reduction on top of the free NFT that the public will not see that 250 for, because that will not
That's
be available.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
we appreciate everybody like yourself and your community, Dan, and all the people that take the time to listen to us. So this is uh, this is for them, and then tomorrow when we do the announcement, there'll be 7 days for whoever else decides to purchase a smart delivery doorbell miner NFT to receive the free racing drone, but they won't receive the 250. And
That's great.
then
Yeah, we appreciate you offering that to the community. I think right now everybody has just been, trying their hardest to build through this market, and it's really great. Like I really appreciate, the opportunity to have you on here, Mike, but I also really appreciate the guys that are still sticking around in this space and putting in the time to learn about new projects, because engagement is at an all-time low right now in the crypto market. Everybody wants to know about things when prices are pumping, don't they? But when you've been in a bear market for almost a year, it's only really the sort of hardcore people that are left around. So for me personally, I really appreciate the opportunity to have great conversations with CEOs like yourself, Mike, but also everybody who's in the audience listening as well, that's sticking around and still showing support to incredible companies like what Mike's doing at Drone Industries, is really valuable, because what we're doing right now is helping ourselves and educating ourselves on really what's going to be the future. And for you guys in the audience that are here putting in the time when 99% of people have disappeared, will only pay dividends for your future in this space. So yeah, just appreciate that offer for the community, Mike, for that, and appreciate everybody here who's listening to the AMA today. So really good stuff.
yeah, well said, and 100% agree. Um, we do have some other announcements too. Let's see, for Disc, we're actually the first ever state channel under the Constellation network that's going to be accepting DAG and Lattice as a monetized method of payment to purchase those NFTs. So you'll be able to go to our website and soon our Nexus digital wallet, and you can in real time right now you can go ahead and go to our Web3 website, and if you buy the NFTs, you can use DAG and Lattice. So right now, as it stands, we accept DAG, Lattice, AVAX, BioFi, Wrapped AVAX, USDT, USDC, and the dot E's for both. And we also offer BioFi. I think I said that one right. So all of those different cryptos are available to purchase these NFTs. So we understand the current market conditions that you just brought up, Dan, and we have empathy for that, and we also extremely we extremely appreciate the fact that the attentiveness during these times is has huge value, because it means you're the core. You understand the value of the future, and you're going to capitalize on it regardless what the market thinks. You're not going on sentiment, you're going on your
Value.
knowledge of what's to come. Yes, exactly. And so with that being said, we support Constellation's DAG and Lattice, and we're turning it into a monetized value. And we'll take any of these cryptos to accept payment, and that will help a lot of times somebody having to go buy to take something, they might already have extra, unstaked or extra staked, but for instance, DAG, you need 250,000 DAG to stake. Anything over that doesn't get rewarded, but what are you doing with that extra stuff? Now let's monetize it. Let's capitalize on it. Let's use it towards something. And we feel that we're taking existing situations and trying to make it better for somebody.
Yeah, I love that, and yeah, I completely agree with what you said. I mean, it is largely irrelevant. I mean, obviously, for a project in crypto and Web3, building a community is a very important part. Having an actively engaged community is it's really a new thing for a business model to have to think about, and you know, of course, that is important, but there's only really so much you can focus on that when you're in this kind of market. When you're building something like what you're building, Mike, that provides incredible value, brings a very a value exchange that is now coming into equilibrium and is really sort of jumping forward in terms of the technology and the service being able to be provided in so many different ways that in the end that will speak for itself. The market swings are temporary, but providing and creating the value and the innovation within your project is something that will be permanent. And over time, that will change. And like you said, the people that are here right now are the ones that are really capitalizing on seeing the value because crypto's all of a sudden become not exciting anymore. But this is where you find the real value that will eventually turn into hype. And instead of buying into that hype, you bought into the value and then you reward yourself throughout the hype situation. So, you have to sort of accept that engagement at this time isn't too great and just focus on putting yourself in the best position that you can for project owners and for, investors and web3 enthusiasts.
Absolutely. And one of the last things, Dan, that I want to make sure I announce is we are the first to actually offer crypto token NFT and carbon credit gift cards. So we're building right now within our actual Nexus digital wallet the capability to actually purchase, reload, or gift out gift cards that will have either NFTs, crypto carbon credits, or tokens.
Mm, very cool. I'm sorry, if you can hear me typing, I'm just writing that one down.
Yeah. And just so
Awesome.
you know, I will, as a courtesy, Dan, I'm going to go ahead and post this. I'll give it to you, the file, but then I'm also going to
Yeah,
post it in the disc community and disc
yeah,
announcement, so that way everybody can see the all the terms and everything we just talked about.
yeah. That's brilliant, Mike. We just had a question on that as well in a question chat about yourself. But I appreciate, Mike. I know that you have got a flight to catch, my good friend, and we've been on for about an hour now. So maybe just if there's anything else you'd like to say to the listeners before you head off, and then we can wrap it up if that sounds good to you.
Absolutely. First off, thank you, Dan, again, and Jamie, a shout out to you, and shout out to all of our our provider partners. And I want to thank everybody. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice now. I want to thank everybody who is on this event right now to for taking the time out of your day to listen to what we have to talk about. And we're very excited to bring forward these opportunities, and we can't wait for us to engage together. So, if you have questions or you want to reach out to us, feel free to inbox us, DM us. Jamie is right there. You can see her, Jamie Wilkes. She's part of the company as well. Um, we'll be happy to answer any questions later in a future time or later in the day. So, thank
Yep.
you very much again.
No worries, Mike. And just to let the listeners know, so your eagerly anticipated white paper is releasing on the 8th of October, and we're going to be hosting another AMA the day after to really get into that and see the insides of your project and really sort of begin to get excited about what you guys are bringing to the table. So that will be on the 9th of October. We'll be hosting another AMA. Obviously, that'll be posted within the group, and we'll be able to dive a little bit deeper into exactly how Disc is going to be functioning. So really
That'd be
excited for
great.
that. Yeah,
I'm very excited for
awesome,
that.
awesome. Listen, Mike, thank you so much for your time. my friend. I really appreciate you taking an hour out of your busy schedule at the moment. And thank you so much for the audience to tuning in. This has been recorded, so we will upload it if you want to listen back to any other parts as well. But yeah, if not, we'll catch you for the next AMA on the 9th of October, and we'll we'll get into the white paper and get excited.
Awesome. Have a great day and thank you so much.
No worries. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Catch you later. Bye bye.